here's the other part that I get some questions about, is what I use for filming. Well, you are actually watching this through a Samsung Galaxy S7. That is what I do all of my voice work on. So when you hear me narrate a video or like this, it's on a Samsung Galaxy S7, just shot with Cyberlink's Power Director for Android. I actually bought the program, which wasn't all that much. I believe it was under 20 bucks Canadian, and I find it works really well. And I actually got that suggestion through a fellow named Justin at Primal Video here on YouTube. He does a lot of those kinds of videos, and it was in his recommendations. I liked the Cyberlink, so I went with Cyberlink, and it's been a great program for me. So I do all my editing and uploading and producing with the Cyberlink for Android. What you are looking at, though, is actually a GoPro knockoff. I didn't have enough money to purchase a GoPro a GoPro 4 or 5 at 450 to 500 bucks. So I spent 50 bucks and bought a knockoff. So this actually is exactly the same as a GoPro. It's on kind of a homemade mount that I rigged up. As you see, it does have a screen so I can watch what's going on. Let me turn it on so you can at least view the screen. It is run on an XDV program for Android, and that is how I download all the videos from it and that sort of thing. I shoot in HD or full HD 1080, or I believe it's 760, one of the two. Depends on what I'm shooting. It's not a bad little screen, so following along. So it's decent. It's not the greatest, but that is what you're watching our videos on. My light, of course, is I won't do it directly, but is a very high power light with 2 settings and flash capability. It is all LED. It was $18 off of eBay. Battery operated, rechargeable, as is the camera. And so that's the equipment I use for doing all the film work here at YYC Designz Custom RC Creations at present, other than my old tripod from one of my old rifle scopes that I changed into a now camera tripod, as well as I use, maybe it's out in the shop, I use a little mini tripod as well that's like 6 inches tall. Yeah, that's got to be out in the shop, the big shop, because it's not out here. It might be buried under snow, but my roof held. The reason I'm not shooting any build videos today is because I'm waiting for some glue and some sealant and that to cure up on the roof from the roof damage that we had. So I figured I would answer all your questions here today on, stuff like, where do I begin? How do I decide what I'm going to build? And how do I design? And what do I shoot my videos with? And all of that. So this is in response to all of those questions that I've gotten. And really, I have nothing else. So, short segment on what I do all the film work with. But since I don't presently own a computer, this is what I use. So that answers that. So I got thinking that maybe y'all would like to know how I begin what I do. Normally I start like this with a drawing. And this is an exact scale drawing, by the way, of Miss Voodoo. And not all of this is going to be Miss Voodoo. It's just this happens to be Miss Voodoo. So I start with an exact scale drawing. I go out and I take a lot of photos and so on, and like that there, of whatever I want to build. And then I start coming in and I start scaling it. Now I do have a calculator on my phone here that actually converts scale, so I don't have to do all the mathematical calculations anymore, but I convert the scale into 1/8, 1/10, 1/5, 16th, 14th, whatever I need. And I just plug the numbers in and I scale it down, and thus I know how big I need to make my drawing or not. And I do things like add in how many degrees of pitch I need and that sort of thing. I sometimes, like this drawing, cannot quite fit it on the paper. So as you notice, Mrs. Voodoo's firewall is going to be right on the edge of my drawing paper. Other stuff, yeah, maybe a little cheesier drawing, but it's a design out of my head, and I go with it, you know. I kind of look. Now, there's angles and so on in here that y'all don't see, but I kind of just basically start with a sketch and I go from there. Or in the case of the double cabin cruiser build, again, it becomes very accurate. I start drawing exactly how I'm going to do things. Here is how the propeller and the prop shaft is going to come out of the bottom of the boat, how the rudder is going to go, trim plates, and then I start working in how all of this stuff is going to attach inside the boat, or whatever I'm working on, yeah? So this is kind of where I begin. And in the case of Miss Moose, this is where I am. So I have a cab, or I have an idea in my head, okay? I want to build a replica rotator, blah, blah, blah. So now I've got to decide, how big is the real thing? Well, in the case of Moose, I've been having some trouble finding dimensions, number one, on a 39 Diamond T. Usually I can use manufacturer's dimensions. The only problem is the military never actually put out exact specifications on the vehicles for Ford and Dodge, who were one of the manufacturers of the Diamond T besides Diamond T themselves. And each one, Ford and Dodge and Diamond T, all had their little variants. So none of those trucks from World War II and so on were ever exactly the same. So that's kind of why I went with a 39. I thought, oh, cool, I can look it up, I can research it, and I can get some exact dimensions. Wrong, didn't happen. I can't find exact dimensions anywhere. So what I did was I actually went out and I found a 41 Diamond T, and along with my notepad and my tape measure, I went out and I did a whole boatload of measuring on this thing, and I ended up with literally just a book full of measurements. Come back here to the small shop and start doing the scale on the calculator. You know, a lot of calculator work and doing all the scaling and so on. Now she's going to be a dual steer axle, which they never did. So I've got to figure out my own way to alter that, ergo the drawings. So here's where one axle is going to be, here's where the other steer axle is going to be. This will probably be a little bit far down. I was just trying to figure out how I could nicely add in a fuel tank, which, by the way, is where probably the batteries are going to go, or at least some of the electronics will go, if not just a bundle from the ESC and or the receiver. And some will go under the driver's seat or under the seats in the cab and that sort of thing. But the hood will flip up like a Diamond T is supposed to and reveal a replica motor. Now, of course, it's an RC, so our motor is going to be electronic, but it will have a motor that looks like the motor that was in the Diamond T, okay? And I'm also adding a sleeper onto this unit, so that's another change that they never had, okay? So here's the cab design. She's exactly from the door to top of the roof 7 inches, and from the exact back of the cab to the exact front of the grill 9 1/4 inches. So I know I have to stay in those dimensions, so that's what I do. I stay in those dimensions, I do my rough sketch work, and then the rest all comes out in the big shop where you see me starting to build the doors, the hood, fenders, all of that sort of thing, which will come in later videos on Moose and all our vehicles. But this is how I start. Prior to that drawing, I was trying to design her boom and her rear outrigger on this page, and I try to, you know, conserve and use as much of the space of the page as I can, how I'm going to try and put actuators in and that sort of thing. And so this is what's going on here. But you'll notice all of this writing. Now, this is not a scale drawing, but it is close. And the reason it's not a scale drawing is because I haven't got dimensions off of a truck with a real boom yet. Malachi McKay, who is on YouTube and actually drives a Peterbilt wrecker, I believe it's an 1140. He is on YouTube here. His name is Malachi McKay. He shows you a wrecker driver's life. He takes us to work every day in his wrecker, and he does a lot of awesome videos with his rotator wrecker. The reason I bring up Mr. Malachi McKay is because he has offered to send me some photos of his wrecker and some dimensions, which is really going to help me out on the build. Well, I could do it just out of my head, but it is a hell of a lot tougher, and I really want them to be accurate. So Malachi has agreed to send me some photos and that of his wrecker, which is going to help me out heaps. So using what I've seen on his channel, I'm just kind of doing a beginning design on that. Now, that being said, okay, sometimes I get lucky and I have a model I can work from, you know. So this is my idea for London calling. So this is a Mercedes Actros cab. It came from a Hercules kit. The Hercules kit I got quite cheaply, I might add. But it is plastic. Yes, the kit, for those of you who know, usually come with the doors and the panels. I cut them out because I am going to make this a fully functional cab. However, this is not the cab that will be going on my model. My model will have a metal cab. But I am doing this one up in fiberglass, and we're going to see if we can make a cool enough cab that I might start doing some stuff with hard plastics. We will see. But in the meantime, and in between times, it works as a model. So it gives me something to copy, and I know how. I figure if I can be as exact as this plastic is, then I'm doing pretty damn awesome. So between, at least it saves me sketching. All I got to do is measure it. Yeah, I can pull out the old handy dandy micrometer here. You know, I can get all of my angles correct, right? And of course, I can use the old ruler and the tape measure and get all of its dimensions proper so that I am a correct 1/14 scale size, because of course Hercules and Tamiya have both done all of the scaling for us as modelers. So all I really have to do is copy what they've done, which is what I'm going to do in this case. So there you have it. There's a little bit of what I do to begin my models and the projects I do. And I just thought maybe y'all would be interested in that. So I don't know which video I'm going to shoot up here next, or shoot next. So, and then upload. So, you know, we'll see which one it is. But whichever one it is, you can be guaranteed. I thank you for watching, and I really appreciate all the comments and suggestions y'all shoot at me all the time. And y'all take care, and we will try and get rid of some snow here in Calgary. We just got 4 inches again last night, and so it's kind of a drag. It's bumming me out, but work will definitely continue.